Based on several questions of my subscribers, I decided to do some testing between downloaded content vs streamed content. In this video, I will show you the results. But first, let's roll the intro. As part of Sim Update number 3, there's a new functionality in Flight Simulator 2024, and that's downloading content. It's a long requested feature because people with suboptimal internet connections, for example with limited bandwidth or with, I would say, a high latency, do experience issues when playing Flight Simulator 2024, which was not the case in Flight Simulator 2020. That's mainly due to the fact that all the content in Flight Simulator 2020 was stored on the local disk, versus in Flight Simulator 2024 the content is streamed from the Asobu and Microsoft servers. Based on some reactions on my previous video, I thought it would be nice to do a comparison, right? So what's the impact of installing all the content? And then looking also at the impact on starting up Flight Simulator, but also when playing Flight Simulator. And also, what are some other benefits or maybe downsides of using the downloaded content? Or maybe what are the downsides of using streamed content? To start with, we of course need to create a good baseline. And to do that, I'm going to show you the settings which I'm currently using for Flight Simulator 2024. I'm only going to focus on the online settings, since the graphic settings really differ per hardware configuration. I have a 4090 NVIDIA card, whereas some people might have less powerful GPUs. And I do think that especially the global rendering quality really is, I would say, almost different per machine, right? It sometimes is playing around with it, sometimes setting switches to high or to low to medium, or decreasing, for example, the terrain level of detail. The one which I'm mostly interested in for this video are the online settings, right? The online settings, we're going to make sure that we are using the photogrammetry things. We're going to make sure that if we select the multiplayer server, that it's the most optimal server, although we're not going to test multiplayer. And then based on that, if we look at the rolling cache, right, which is the cache which is using, we leave it to 16 gigabyte. Which is the default setting. Some people say, hey, change it to higher values. We do have, I would say, much better performance, but we will leave it to 16 gig for both tests. Then the data consumption, I don't set any warnings because I don't care, because I don't have bandwidth restrictions, which means that I also set the data bandwidth usage limit to unlimited. These are the settings which we're going to use out of the box. So what we're first going to do is we're going to make sure that we can measure the frames per second, also when using Flight Simulator 2024, and that can be done using the advanced options, and inside the advanced options you can switch on the developer mode. Inside the developer mode you need to go to debug. In the debug menu you'll find a lot of options, but the most interesting ones for us is the display FPS. This shows you the frames per second, but also the, I would say, where are you limited by? In this case, the reader thread or the video card or the CPU or whatever you want. This is located here, right? Currently everything is green, but that will soon change when you play Flight Simulator 2024. Besides that, we can see this part, which is the memory being used. This is the physical memory, right? 64 gigs. Virtual memory used, which is the page file, the peak virtual memory, as well as the GPU memory. Currently it's 3.6 up to we'll say almost 23, because that's the 24 gigs maximum of the GPU card, which I have using the 4090. To avoid that the debug mode will cause any issues, I'm gonna switch off the debug mode or the dev mode, because what I saw is that it potentially impacts your CPU usage. So be aware of that if you have it enabled, it might impact your CPU. Before starting the first test, I will first show you which content I will download as part of this test. right? Because you can see we've got several downloads or several options, the air traffic aircraft, the base content, which contains all the base packages. And that's why it also contains a lot of packages, including all the aircraft, but also some scenery packages. And then there's of course more, there's the challenges and also the other items. And the only thing which we're going to do is we're going to select them. That's to make sure that we select all the items. So you will need to select them either manually or say select all. Be careful when using the select all option, because it also might select some packages which you don't want to install, such as the Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020 packages, although most of them are disabled. You can see a lot of these packages, right? All the city updates are there, up to the latest one, City Update Germany, but also some deluxe packages, depending on which version of Flight Simulator you own. In this case, also the Spotlight event package. And of course, the Standard to Deluxe upgrade, the Standard to Premium Deluxe upgrade, and then all the world updates from Japan, USA, UK, Belgium, Netherlands and Luxembourg, up to the latest ones. And that's also a pretty long list, as you can see. I'm not going to call out all the names, but there's, I would say, a pretty extensive list which you can select. And I'm not going to select this because we're going to test every scenery, but that's to just make sure that we're downloading or performing the test, right, the startup test, as realistic as possible. Because that's the first test we're going to perform, I would say, after we download all the content and then I would say install all the content. Because that's the next step, right? I need to download all the content. You also can see that the community items are there and also the 2020 items, but I'm not going to select them, only the 2024 content. And then it will roughly take 400 gigs to install. So I'm going to press download. I'm not going to show you how it's going to download because it's kind of boring. I'm going to continue with this video after the download has been completed. So everything has been downloaded, so I can go to the download tab, which you will find on the right side, and then I can select all the items which I want to install, which is of course everything. So I press select all and then install, and this will take some time. So everything is now ready for our first test, and that's the startup test. How long does it take when using streamed content versus downloaded content? So let's get rolling, right? We're starting it. It's almost the same, right? We're starting it on the left side. It's the downloaded version. Versus on the right side, it's the streamed version. Keep in mind, the downloaded version contains all the content which we installed during the prereqs part. And you can see that until now, it's pretty equally. But be aware, there will be some changes soon. Initially, I thought, okay, hey, the black screen is earlier on the download version, so maybe that one is quicker than the streamed version. But if you see, I would say, loading the packages, at least the progress bar, that will be the part where it changes massively. Because I'm showing it side by side, you can't see the full progress bar, but I'm open on that. If you want me to publish those videos as well, then let me know, because I can do so. So you can see until now the intros are kind of the same, right? You can see the rotating mouse cursor, which I forgot to remove on the right side. And you can see everything goes nice. You don't see the progress bar on the right side also. So it means it's still loading the packages, but soon you will see some change happening. And you will be, I would say, not probably surprised, right? Because we know that the downloaded content requires more time because it needs to be read from disk, it needs to be validated against the index files where it keeps track of which content is installed. So it's kind of expected already, and that's also the expectation I had when testing it, is that the startup of the streamed version is much faster compared to the downloaded version. So you can see on the right side we're almost there, and at 1:40:02 we were at the start screen. So 1:40:02. Keep that in mind. You can see that the streamed version, or the downloaded version, still continues to load, right? It still continues to load the content. You still can't see the progress bar, which takes pretty long, but we will come there eventually. However, it will take a little bit longer than you, I would say, might have thought. I'm using an SSD drive, so that shouldn't be the issue, right? It goes pretty fast. Also, I looked at some performance statistics behind the scenes, and I didn't really see some issues there. So it's not, I would say, a system bottleneck or something else which is causing it. It's really simply the process of loading all those packages and making sure that they're added to the, I would say, content or database of Flight Simulator. And I also do think that they're performing some test if the package is updated. However, that still needs to be confirmed somewhere. I still need to figure out how I can confirm it. In the meantime, you can see that the progress bar now starts to, let's say, show up on the left side also, which means that we're almost there. We're, I would say, roughly at the 3-minute mark, which means that it almost takes twice as long at least to download all the packages and start up Flight Simulator when using downloaded content. But hey, will it benefit from performance perspective? That's what we will find out in the next test, of course. But first, we're here at 31020 for the downloaded version versus 14002 for the streamed version. So pretty amazing results, but not surprisingly, to be honest. So we arrived at test number 2, where we're going to measure the time, how long it takes before the aircraft really is loaded on the right airport. We selected JFK because it's a really busy airport, but keep in mind that we selected or deselected most options to load additional aircrafts. So let's get the test running. So here we go again. We started the timer and it was really hard to get them on the same page, right? You can see that they're almost loading the same. It takes roughly 10 seconds, a little bit more before they start really zooming in. So we're closely marking to the 15 seconds mark, almost the 20 mark, and it's still loading, right? There's nothing happening. However, what you can see, if you look quickly, that on the left side, right, which is the download version, it was a little bit quicker compared to the right side, the stream version. Our next test will be taking off from the airport. So let's get started and see the performance differences. So let's go airborne on both sides, right? On the left side again, the download version, on the right side, the stream version. Both the rolling cache files were cleared before performing this test to make sure that we're not using cached versions, because when doing the cached versions, I observed some other results. The thing is that on both sides, you can still see that data is being downloaded. On the stream version, of course, that will be much more compared to the downloaded part. But even on the downloaded part, you can still see that there will be some data downloaded. If I would say even though we installed most of the packages, which is, I would say, kind of surprising. It likely is the weather, but also maybe the aircrafts, but also maybe some photogrammetry content, although I'm pretty sure that I switched it off for the test to make sure that it's more realistic. As you can see, performance-wise, I would say the stream version and the download version are almost performing the same. You can also see that the VRAM, right, is almost the same usage. There is some difference, but it's really minimalistic. If you look at the download size at the download stream, I was kind of being between brackets shocked about the download speed it reaches even with the downloaded version, because it still needs to download some serious content. Likely if you perform the same test again, right, with the rolling cache now filled with the cache, it will be less data being downloaded. I can do the test after this one, but I first want to show you this one to see, okay, hey, what's the performance differences. So we're almost airborne, right? We're, I would say, setting course to New York City, but I don't want to get you bored with watching, I would say, 2 aircrafts trying to fly to New York City. There's a small difference between them. Likely that's due to the frames per second differences, which initially I would say one of them wins. But it is not a performance test from, I would say, how fast it is, but more from a frames per second. And that's where you see some interesting things happening here, right? You can see that there are even peaks to above 100 frames per second on the streamed version. Whereas on the downloaded version, you can see that there is, I would say, it kind of pretty stable, around 80 frames per second, sometimes a little bit lower. And that's something I observed also doing some other testing. So that's kind of interesting. For now, let's, I would say, move the video a little bit ahead and let's move to New York City itself. And we made a jump to the city where I tried to start the videos at the same time. However, due to the frames per second difference, it's kind of hard to keep them in sync. That was also what was surprising me, right? This streamed version, I would say, performs much better from frames per second perspective compared to the downloaded version. Although both versions are, of course, perfectly fine to use in Flight Simulator 2024. The other thing I checked is the download content, and the photogrammetry content is still being downloaded. That's why you see the download speed, I would say, still downloading some data in the downloaded version. Likely if you switch it off, it won't download that much anymore, although there still will be the live weather if you switch it on, and the ATC which also being generated, although you can switch that off also. Other numbers are, I would say, looking almost the same, right? If you look at the VRAM usage, it's almost the same. Currently, it's exactly the same, but there were some differences depending on the part of the city where you're flying over, but not huge differences. The thing which I observed, however, is that the main thread in the downloaded version is continuously yellow, which means it's in the warning zone, not the danger zone. Whereas on the streamed version, it's much more in the green zone. You also see that the limited by main thread is flickering between green and red, whereas on the download version 3, it's completely red continuously. There are some tweaks found on the internet by other YouTubers where they describe how you can tweak it and even make it green every time. I didn't do it on purpose for this video, but of course it's something you could try yourself. So have a look at my fellow YouTubers, which have great tips about how to do that. And maybe I also will record a video about that in the near future. Overall, I would say not a lot of surprises, to be honest. Besides the fact that the frames per second is much higher on the streamed version, I didn't expect that. But hey, that's what is the difference. And I would say the systems are not lying, right? We're doing it using exactly the same settings. So the only difference is downloaded content versus streamed content. So here in this video where we compared streamed content versus downloaded content. The downloaded content option is a new option as part of Sim update number 3, as you've seen in one of my previous videos. In this video we really performed some testing. Short recap, starting Flight Simulator 2024 with streamed content goes much faster compared to downloaded content, which is kind of expected. However, when loading into the airport, we saw that the downloaded content was performing slightly better compared to the streamed content. The last test we performed was really doing a flight. We saw that the streamed content was resulting in much higher frames per second, whereas I would say the download content resulted in more main thread issues or limited by main thread issues compared to the stream content. This of course is an initial video and likely I need to do some further testing to give a good conclusion, but for now I'm pretty sure what I will choose. I will stay on stream content, but that's also due to the fact that I've got a pretty stable internet connection. If you want me to perform some additional testing, then let me know via the comment box. Also let me know what you liked about this video or didn't like about it, because I want to improve my videos but it only can be done based on feedback from you. If you like this video, then also consider to subscribe to my channel and of course hit the like button. Thanks for watching and hope to see you back next time.